Welcome back to Built to Ship, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with founders and product leaders shipping real AI features and products into the world. Today, I'm joined by Nat, founder and CEO of Trustworthy, the family operating system that helps people securely organize, access, and share their most important information. Nat, it's great to have you here.
Hey, Tyler, great to be here.
Amazing. Thanks for joining. Well, why don't we start with your background? What were you doing before Trustworthy? Where'd you get the idea? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds great. I was at Microsoft before starting Trustworthy. Our last company had been acquired by Microsoft, so I was cooling my jets there, working on some really interesting stuff in the consumer office SKUs. We were looking to add value and sort of got introduced to this idea of thinking about families as a customer, which was really germane for me. Because literally the day we got acquired, my son was born and my dad brain engaged, and it was a good time to be thinking about family stuff because that was the mode I was in, and was really a big part of the catalyst for Trustworthy is thinking about family as customer. What are the needs of families? What kind of things are they encumbered with today? What kind of load do families have across life? And asked around friends and family what they do to sort of deal with all the things that they're dealing with in life, kids, estates, and just sort of the day-to-day ins and outs of life and the load that they were dealing with. And I think we discovered through that process of talking to people what they were doing and found that they all had kind of built their own DIY version of a place to keep information, important information that they needed, whether that was kids' information for schools or insurance information or estate planning or financial. And what that sort of added up to was like all these silos of information that they had logins for. And, I remember I had that old account and is it still relevant? And I moved that 401k, all of the sort of bits and pieces and what we think of as silos of information, but not having a way to put an umbrella around all of that, and building their DIY systems. They'd really done it for two primary reasons. One was, hey, if I need a bit of information in the moment that I need it, I don't want to have to wait to go home and look through the filing cabinet or somewhere in the library. There's a piece of information I'm looking for. I need it right now to get this thing done. So that people had built just for that reason. I travel a lot, whatever. And then another big primary reason was if something were to happen to me, would my loved ones know where to go to find all the bits and pieces so they could transition my estate? And so in learning that, we'd seen all the different kinds of systems that people have built. A shoebox in the spare bedroom filled with papers and receipts and whatnot, to beautifully elaborate systems that people had their high net worth people had built their assistant, build it, had every asset in their home, every lamp when it was purchased, what it was purchased for, what it was worth today, if it was worth anything, art, all of the things, like beautiful system. And we're like, man, there's a lot of work that goes into building this, right? That you generally start with a blank page if you're using a tool. And we send all kind of tools from Google Docs to Dropbox documents to the phone, photo albums on your phone for important documents, to email, of course. A lot of things live in email, and on Trello to people who use Trello, or even Monday.com,
Oh, wow.
a project management software, to sort of bend it. And we're like, well, this is a little crazy. We're 60, 70 years into the information age, and families don't have a system of record. But in our business lives, we have thousands of systems at work to deal with information, company information, client information. Why do families have nothing? And we just figured, surely we could help get people further faster, that not everyone had to build a system of record from scratch, and that we could learn, from all the users in terms of what their needs were, and inform them, right? And do the things to reduce the load across your family. So
that's great.
Give you a safe, sort of maybe moving into what is Trustworthy now, but a safe and secure place to keep that important information, those important documents, so that you can get it quickly when you need it. All your information in your pocket, to use an Apple term of phrase, that you can share it with the people who need it, and in a temporal way, because you might not want to share it all right now. In a spreadsheet, if I say, here's all my information, but don't look at tab 2 until I'm incapacitated or pass away. That probably doesn't work too well. And that's a really important dynamic when you think about families and how they want to share information across generations.
Very interesting. I could tell you that. Yeah, I can tell you that my experience from my mom growing up is there's just tons of bankers boxes. So there is definitely no version control. There's no access control, permissioning, and then in a fire or something like that, you lose all that information, all that history. This definitely sounds like a problem that you guys have found in the market. You've talked to a lot of customers and families, and I love that you've seen like both ends of the spectrum. And I'm sure you can like find something. For some folks, you're giving them something more advanced than they'd ever have before. And for some folks, you're just automating a lot of the process that they took to build this complex system. I was curious to ask, like, did the idea for Trustworthy start before the advent of like LLMs? And then you guys have like realized, oh, wait, this is an application, or was that something that spurred you to even start this business? When did you guys
great question.
On the company?
We started in 2020. The company was formed in 2019, but we started really building in earnest in 2020. So a couple of years before the widespread availability of LLMs.
How did that change like your product strategy or your ideas for the business?
Yeah, significantly. The reason that there's no big provider in our space, in this category of what we call family operating system, is because of inertia, right? That prior, in our first couple of years, we knew that people had to do work to get their information into Trustworthy, right? And so that's inertia. That's like, I've got to do something. Yeah, it's incredibly valuable once in there, but how do I get it all in there in the first place? And that's a material problem to solve for as a product person, right? And we really just started by building fundamentally private, safe platform for you to put information. Then we realized pretty quickly that once you got to a certain point, you were in an adopted state. And so we said, okay, how do we accelerate that, you getting to that state and make it easier for you? So we built a lot of curation tools, like a mobile app with a scanner on it. We built an integration with ScanSnap scanners. Of course, you can drag and drop things, connect to a cloud drive. And we just keep sort of building curation facility to make it easier for you. But it really didn't turn a corner until we started introducing really what we call autopilot. There's those two components to the way that we've adopted AI to make it easier for families. So one is autopilot, so that when you drop a document or a document arrives from somewhere into Trustworthy, autopilot takes over and says, oh, this is a document, great. I'm going to look at this, create a summary, extract all the metadata for you so you no longer have to type anything in. Create a summary. If there's a date in there that looks like an important date, I'll create an automated reminder for you and notify you ahead of this thing needing to be renewed or reviewed. And then in the back end, it's starting to map the relationships of entities in that document. So this is what's become now known as an agentic knowledge graph. We call it household data graph, but when we started, it didn't really have a name. And now this fancy name of agentic knowledge graph just means that we understand household documents, right? This is a bank statement. This is an insurance policy. This is a warranty for your dishwasher. This is your home title, like all of the important documents. And what our graph does is it starts mapping the connections across things and owners and entities and sort of building, you could think of it as a mind map or a spatial model of how those things interrelate. So for example, this is a home, there's a title, there's an insurance policy, there's owners of the home, and so that's a good example. There's maybe warranties that come with the home, like how those things all connect. We build those connections for you automatically. And so this was a massive increment for us in people getting further faster, like 17x adoption rate when people use the autopilot feature. And we're carrying that forward. So that was sort of a experiment, if you like, in many ways, and a very successful one. Now we're carrying all of that forward into, oh, this AI stuff's really good. maybe we should build a AI native version of Trustworthy. And we're building it right now, and it releases, the first part of it will release in Q1 this year.
Amazing. Congrats. That's exciting. So it sounds like the first thing that you tried out with LLMs was, hey, there's all this busy work that's valuable, but you only get in, you only get out what you put in terms of like, if they didn't have AI before, they would probably have to do some of that categorization and mapping of like, this is a warranty for this home, not this home, and connect those two together. Now you have AI working in the background to do that. Definitely sounds like a big time save and value add. What's your sort of high level architecture for this agentic system? Is it one agent with one prompt but a ton of tools, or you mentioned like this knowledge graph? Can you explain a bit more about what you guys have found successful? It's really helpful for the audience to hear what architectures or what patterns they should try out. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, first thing top of mind for us was not sharing any member information with the LLMs, and not letting LLMs train on user data. So we, fortunately, because there are connections at Microsoft, we're able to get a ZDR, zero data retention policy, and this was years ago. I think it's more commonplace now with application creators, but it was very difficult to get back then. But we were able to get it, and that was really the only way that we could consider implementing AI at all, right? We didn't want to train, like I said, no training, no retention, which is, I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand what that means, but usually LLMs will hold your information for 30 days or longer, depending on the LLM. So we didn't want any of that, and we were able to get it. So foundationally, that was important for us. The next thing was really constructing, being able to leverage AI, but be able to construct a machine or an engine in a way where we could bring in lots of different kinds of documents across the household, from an estate plan, which has its own structure, to a warranty or life insurance policy, or an ID like a driver's license, and be able to write prompts to understand what those documents are and sort of retain that knowledge. So the next time someone put on one of those documents, that we would sort of like, oh, we know what this is, right?
So to make sure I'm understanding, is that kind of like a recipe or a template for different types of documents? Like you've created different prompts for, okay, if it's first triage, is it this type of document? If so, use this prompt, or in other words, maybe this agent to handle this document. Is that?
Yeah, and look for this kind of information that we know we want to extract. Like, this is important information from your car registration, for example. We know we want the VIN number. We know we want the start and end date. We know we want the state information and the registration. We are looking for that kind of information in certain kind of documents. So knowing what the document is, and then can we grab this information from that document for you to utilize?
As this library of prompts and these different types of skills that you're giving your AI system, as they grow, how are you managing is that all in-house, like storing these prompts and versions? Do you use a tool or a framework for that? Any advice you can give to folks as they start to get more complex systems?
I think there are actually training programs now. If you want to go build an agentic knowledge graph around a particular area or body of knowledge, right? We built ours from scratch, which I don't think is the best way to go anymore. Just sort of learn the hard way. But we started, 2.5 years ago, and really there was nothing in terms of sort of how do you build an application or a body of knowledge around a particular subject, for example. So our AI team is phenomenal. Our head of data science is amazing, and they'll have PhDs and they're very smart people. So they were able to how would we go about this? Okay, let's start experimenting. And so we sort of built it from the ground up. That's how we did it. I don't think you have to do that anymore.
Makes sense.
There's a way to accelerate into this, probably.
One of the benefits and challenges of being super early to the space is you kind of have that edge, but also you have to kind of build everything yourself. So that makes sense. When it comes to these features now, these agentic systems that sound like they're mostly happening in the background, like the user doesn't necessarily have to talk to an AI, right? You're kind of, tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like I upload a document and then in the background, you're deciding what agent to use where, and it's processing the information and maybe displayed in a UI. What volume are you starting to run through these kind of agents? And have you found anything starting to break at a certain scale? Like how many agent, I don't know how you track it. Is it agent conversations? Is it agent runs are you doing a month, behind the scenes, or just roughly order of magnitude?
Yeah, we really run one agent that we call autopilot across all accounts. And the scale for us is, volume of input from the member today. So we haven't hit any scaling issues other than sort of just general performance. On the LLMs, it tends to be more in our cloud providers, honestly, and optimizing code. The nice thing is that the costs for LLMs continue to come down. So as we think about the COGS layer of it, the COGS, that we just continue that to decrease as volume increases.
Makes sense.
We've priced all this out, right? So it doesn't seem to be material, or seems to be getting pretty consistently cheaper. I don't know if that tops out or starts to go the other way, but there's so much competition in the space that probably not anytime soon, right? And then it will become more commoditized, the kinds of things that we want to do. The next phase for us is, so today you sort of have to either forward an email or sort of knowingly add something to Trustworthy through one of the curation facilities that we built. The next step is, because so many people of our members are signing up using Gmail credentials, is asking for permission to go get their documents from their email, where a lot of documents frankly live and shouldn't, right? One of our members said this best, like, email is my mosh pit and Trustworthy is my Zen garden. And so we really wanted to lean into that and say, yeah, okay, that isn't the best place to keep your important documents. A lot of people do it, but if you were to undo that, it's a lot of work for you. So how do we automate that in a way that can go back, right, and look at the history and say, oh, you have a year's worth of really important document history in here. Let's grab that and build up your graph quickly. And then in perpetuity, of course, as new things arrive in your email, let's grab those for you as well. So that's just another click on automation for you. And I think sort of leaning into this sort of email, things are locked up in email. How do we rationalize that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I totally resonate with the emails of mosh pit. I barely ever check it. And so I think it would be great if that's, something you guys move towards next, really building on the automation that you already have today. I know we're getting close to time, but I wanted to ask one more question before we wrap up and kind of share Trustworthy on the screen for everyone. Now that you have these agents in production, you're running this on live data, on customers, and you're about to launch a new AI feature. How do you think about monitoring in production? Because a lot of companies figured out how to vibe check, locally, how to test these things. They probably have test sets, but users often do things you didn't expect. Do you have any tools that you use? Are you using traditional analytics tools? We hear people use things like Google Analytics or other custom systems they've set up, or Langsmith for logging. Do you have any tools you use that you could share and give a plug for, or is it something you've built internally? And what's your process for monitoring the accuracy and just interactions that your agents are having with your users, even if it's not directly with them, but with their data?
Yeah, we tend to measure this as sort of throughput, like monthly throughput on documents ingested, as a sort of big KPI for us, and what's the average across the user base. We do use Google Analytics for web just because it's commonplace. For data tracking, we do have some tools, but it's mostly like a data warehouse that we use, that our analytics team uses a data warehouse.
Makes sense.
And we'll run queries against those.
Yeah, totally.
But there's nothing in particular that stands out in terms of a tool set for us. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think a lot of people are still in the same boat as you, where they're using other tools that they're familiar with and kind of stitching it together. I mean, the space, like you said, is still evolving. There's, maybe nowadays there's frameworks for things that didn't exist when you guys started, and it's exciting that new development tools and new models come out all the time. Well, I
will say I'm looking for the AI tool that tells you what your KPIs are, right? That you don't need to define them, that they're sort of auto-defined based on what it's seeing. I'm really
I love
intrigued to
that.
see something like that.
Yeah, what it knows about your business and your users. That definitely seems like something that should be coming soon with everything that the models can do now. Well, I'd love to keep chatting about Trustworthy and your journey, but I know we're close to time. So I want to put your website up on the screen, trustworthy.com. Maybe you can share with folks who should be trying out Trustworthy. What's the best way to get in touch? I assume probably free sign up, but anywhere else you suggest they follow along, LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a good place to follow our page, or Instagram. Maybe YouTube is if you're looking for tutorials or those kinds of things, explanations or webinars that we record. We have channels on all those socials. We have a completely free plan that you can use indefinitely. There are some constraints, of course, but that's a great way to get started. There's no credit card required. You just sign up for the free account and see if Trustworthy is a fit for you. And your family, essentially. Like, it's not usually, people don't just build it for themselves. They build it, invite their spouse or partner, they invite adult children or parents, they invite wealth advisors or accountants or estate planning attorneys. We really built an entire ecosystem to support your family the way it works.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, everyone check out trustworthy.com. Thanks again, Nat, for joining. It's been great hearing about Trustworthy, and I'm looking forward to following along as you guys launch that new Gmail and email integration feature. Keep building, and looking forward to keeping in touch.
Great. Thanks, Tyler.
Bye now.